First, I want to thank the Minister for his reply, and I welcome the fact that he stated that additional sanctions and sentencing will be imposed on these criminals who are peddling death and destruction in every community throughout our country. Minister, you indicated to me when we spoke on this issue that you would be bringing forward additional measures and legislation. I very much welcome that, and I think it should be addressed with the utmost urgency. It's really heartbreaking to listen to parents, siblings, family members of people who have lost family members through the use of drugs, who have become victims of these people who are peddling drugs and causing untold hardship. I recently listened to a mother who lost her son and her husband, and she outlined very, very clearly the role that the use of drugs caused in those deaths. It's absolutely appalling. Minister, we need more awareness campaigns, and that's not just for teenagers or young adults. We need it at the moment, from what I hear. You need it for every age group in the country, because we hear of the prevalence of drugs in places we never thought they would be present. Thank you, Alaskan Corley.
The Deputy is entirely correct, and I want to build on that point, because I'm very concerned about the growing social acceptance of drug taking in this country. And let me be clear, I'm not talking about people with drug addiction. I'm not talking about the pain and the hurt of that. We need to support people in overcoming addiction. They need our help, not stigma. They need a health-led approach. But there's another type of drug use we've got to start talking about in this country, calling it out and talking about it clearly. And what I'm talking about is the increasing prevalence and often visibility of drug taking as part of a night out in Ireland.
Yes.
And any conversation we have about drug use cannot ignore this reality. There is a direct link between snorting a line or taking a pill and murder, assault, criminality and misery. Drug use on a Friday or Saturday night is funding and supporting violence, crime, murders the next week. You're helping to line the pockets of criminals who are inflicting misery and pain in communities across our country. We need to get real about this. Drug use is not victimless, far from it. And I'm so proud of the work of the Gardaí, as I've said in relation to this, but I recently met Senior Gardaí to discuss this specific point. The laws are clear, and any nighttime venue, Laskin Corla, or any social premises needs to be very aware of the law and the responsibilities. And there are and there will continue to be Garda operations to ensure that that law is upheld right across this country.
Laskin Corla, I thank the Minister for replying. Minister, what you have said here, I'd love if that was amplified to the communities throughout our country, to individuals, and that message would go out, that this is the government approach, that this is the approach of the Oireachtas. No tolerance for whatever social strata people come who are peddling drugs and passing around a line, etc. Minister, I listened to a sergeant in the Cavan and Drugs Unit recently at a public meeting, and he outlined the horrors inflicted on people through the use of drugs. He did an excellent presentation. We need to get that message out very clearly, and I fully appreciate that we need to give people who unfortunately become addicted through different facets of their existence and their life. And I have helped and supported many of those people through the Cavan and Drug Awareness Unit as well. We need to resource those particular organisations very well, because I have seen, thankfully, people taken back from addiction who have recovered, and thankfully today they're in gainful employment, looking after themselves, rearing families in many instances. We have to ensure that we don't lose sight of that either, but at the same time we cannot lose sight of the criminal gangs and those people whom I said earlier were peddling death and destruction in every community in our country. Thank you, Laskin Corley.
Thank you so much, Deputy Smith. I mean, I fully agree. We will always and we must support people overcoming addiction. I really welcome the establishment of the Citizens' Assembly on Drugs. As a former health minister, I know the importance of a health-led approach to somebody and supporting the family of somebody going through addiction. That's not what we're talking about. What I'm talking about is the so-called social use, if you like, of drugs. It's somebody who goes out for a pint and accompanies that pint now with the taking of drugs. We've got to start calling this out. There's a direct link and a direct correlation between that so-called social activity and lining the pockets of these criminal gangs. And you can't have a situation where you do one thing at the weekend and then you start abhorring the criminality the next week. You're helping to support it, you're helping to fund it. I've met with Senior Gardaí in relation to this. I'm very satisfied from my conversations with them that they're taking this extremely seriously, that there's very clear law in relation to licensed premises, in relation to social venues, in relation to these matters. There are Garda operations in this space, there will be more, and I want that message to go out and amplify it as the Deputy suggests.